before Catalonia's parliament gathers, uncertainty reigns. Will they declare independence, and if so, what will it entail? European neighbours side with Spain. But what will happen here? Will jobs be lost? Is more violence feared?
After Catalonia's historic referendum, the world is watching whether its leaders will declare independence or not. WION is on the ground to give you the latest as it happens.
Watch WION's continuous coverage of the biggest global headline story with live reports from Barcelona and Madrid.
Good evening. Europe today is on the verge of adding a new country. In just a few minutes from now, the face of the Catalonian agitation, President Puigdemont, is set to declare independence. But will he? He's under immense pressure. Which way will this go is the million-dollar question right now. What will follow the declaration of independence? What will it mean for Catalonia, for Spain, for Europe? How are the different sides reacting to what's happening today? On Gravitas tonight, we bring you ground reports and in-depth analysis on what's, without doubt, the biggest international story of the day. I'm Palki Sharma Upadhyay. The headlines first. North Korean hackers steal classified military documents from South Korea. Reports say the data includes a plan to decapitate North Korean President Kim Jong-un in case of a war. Massive wildfires raged through the wine country in California. Authorities say at least 10 people are dead, more than 100 still missing. Thunderstorms batter South African cities of Johannesburg and Durban. People are trapped in flood waters as authorities urge families to stay indoors. Pressure grows on Catalan leader Carles Puigdemont. European Union issues a fresh appeal urging the Catalan leaders to not break away from Spain. Iran says it will keep all options on the table if President Donald Trump decides to designate its elite revolutionary guards as terrorists, promises a crushing response to the United States. Amid Brexit impasse, British defence giant BAE Systems cuts almost 2,000 jobs. The company says it's restructuring as orders for its flagship Typhoon jet drop. Chief Justice S.K. Sinha has been at the receiving end of criticism from the ruling government's ministers, this following the observations he made while scrapping the 16th Amendment of the Constitution. So when his month-long leave began last Tuesday, questions were asked on whether he was pressurized into taking a backseat or if he'd been put under house arrest. Bangladesh's Attorney General Mehboob-e Alam has rubbished these claims, calling them lies. Sinha is the first ever Hindu to be appointed the head of Bangladesh's Supreme Court. He chaired the trial against the killers of Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, widely regarded as the father of the nation. In 2010, as chairman of a committee of the Supreme Court, Sinha declared the Fifth Amendment of the Constitution illegal. In 1979, General Zia-ur-Rahman introduced the amendment to cancel the principle of secularism and proclaimed martial law. With its abrogation in 2010, the court ruled that Bangladesh is a secular state. Sinha is therefore not new to controversy. His observation on Article 16 have gone unnoticed. Now, with reports surfacing of his applying for a visa to Australia, questions are being asked on whether the judge is being hounded for his views. Remember, Sinha had struck down 16th Amendment, which would have given immense powers to the Bangladeshi parliament to sack judges. WION spoke exclusively to Mr. Sinha and we found him reluctant to talk, which indicates that he is under some kind of pressure.
We've heard that you are in Australia, sir. Is this true?
I am not in Australia. I am in Bangladesh right now.
All right.
If I get my permission of the government, that is Honorable President, then I will go to Australia. I have obtained visa for Australia, but till now I can't tell you right now because I did not receive the government.
You are going to go to Australia if your permission is granted. Can you tell us for how much time you intend to go?
I will not give any reply. I will not give any interview to the press. Please forward this. My country, because I am the Chief Justice. I want my country first. My judicial independence, our judiciary is very strong. I am confident that that nothing will happen to our country. Our government is committed to democracy and rule of law. I believe in rule of law.
Oxford University has opened its doors to a Nobel icon this week. None other than Malala Yousafzai, the girl from Swat in northwest Pakistan who survived a Taliban assassination attempt to become a flag bearer of education for girls. But in her own country, she is viewed with some ambivalence. More in this report by WION's Pakistan Bureau Chief Taha Siddiqui.
This week, Nobel Prize winner Malala Yousafzai began attending classes at the prestigious Oxford University. The 20-year-old Nobel Peace Prize laureate tweeted on Monday, "5 years ago, I was shot in an attempt to stop me from speaking out for girls' education. Today, I attend my first lectures at Oxford." Malala was shot by the Taliban, who were opposed to her campaigning for the education of girls. Today, she is an internationally acknowledged icon and a powerful advocate of girls' literacy around the world. This year, she was designated the youngest ever UN Messenger of Peace, but the irony is she is not celebrated in her own country, Pakistan. There have been smear campaigns against her by political and religious groups in the country who've spread conspiracy theories about her being an anti-Pakistan agent. The public in Pakistan agrees with this view.
अगर वो हीरो है वो होगा, वो अमेरिका के लिए हीरो होगा, वो हमारे मुल्क के लिए नहीं है, वो हमारे मुल्क के लिए एक एजेंट के तौर पे काम करती थी।
तो इसको एक पॉलिसी के तहत इन करवाया गया मलाला यूसुफजई को, इसको मतलब यहाँ तक इस लेवल तक लेके जाना था। ये बेसिकली लॉबीज़ हैं, इंटरनेशनल जो अमेरिकन लॉबी है, तो उसके तहत इसको लाया गया है और तैयार किया जा रहा है।
तो एक ऐसी लड़की के लिए जिसका बाप जो है ना, क्या नाम है, CIA के जो है ना डायरेक्टर्स के साथ नज़र आ रहा है, कुछ लेते हुए नज़र आ रहा है, कुछ देते हुए नज़र आ रहा है, और फिर उसकी बेटी का इस तरह उसके बाद गोली लगना, यही साबित करता है कि ये उनके लिए काम कर रही है।
Others say that Malala is Pakistan's pride.
वो लायक तरीन लड़की है और वो मुस्तहिक है कि उसको नोबेल इनाम मिला है। ये दुश्मन मुल्कों का या दुश्मन लोगों का प्रोपगंडा है या रुजत पसंद कुव्वतों का प्रोपगंडा है।
एक बच्ची ने अगर इतनी करज दिखाई है कि एक ऐसी कम्युनिटी से कि जहाँ तालीम को वो लोग मतलब डिग्रेड करते, स्पेशल फीमेल का, तो फीमेल के हवाले से उसने ये चीज़ बड़ी हाईलाइट की और बड़ी जुर्रत का मुजाहरा किया है और बड़ी कुर्बानी है उन लोगों के लिए, उस इलाके के लिए, उस बच्ची के लिहाज से कि इतने बैकवर्ड के एरिया में फ़ीमेल को, हम पठान में खुद ही पठान हूँ, तालीम दिलाना पसंद नहीं करते कि हमारे यहाँ एक पर्दे का रिवाज है, लेकिन उस बच्ची ने बड़ी करज दिखाई है और उसको अप्रिशिएट करना चाहिए। अप्रिशिएट।
Malala is studying philosophy, politics and economics, and while she did not reveal her grades, at a recent conference she indicated her admission to Oxford was conditional on her winning 3 A's for her school leaving examination.
As Malala Yousafzai starts her university classes at Oxford this week, she has achieved another milestone at a very young age. But back home, her own countrymen look at her achievements with suspicion. This is Taha Siddiqui with cameraman Rao Bilal reporting for WION from Islamabad.
6 years after Libya's leader Muammar Gaddafi was killed in a nationwide uprising, his country remains in chaos, divided between two feuding groups with lesser militias and smugglers adding to the confusion. The Islamic State is also making steady inroads into this lawless land.
4 men of Libya's largest tribe, known as Warafalla, were recently reported killed south of Tripoli. It would have been just another killing were it not for the fact that they were leading reconciliation movements to bring the country's fractious tribes together. Libyan society is structured around tribes who have as many as 1 million members and have always had a say in the country's politics. In the events leading up to former dictator Gaddafi's death, the tribes with different loyalties fought each other. Libya currently is a country split between two quarreling governments. One is based in Tripoli in the west and is called the Government of National Accord, which is recognized by the United Nations. The other is in Tobruk in the eastern part of the country and is seen as illegitimate. This is not to presume that either of the two governments are actually in full control of the areas where they are located. Libya is Africa's 4th largest country and is the centerpiece of a fierce competition for influence. The European Union and the United States are backing one side, while Russia is backing the other. In the middle are scores of minor militias and powerful criminal networks. They are engaged in human trafficking and smuggling of all goods. What's more, the Islamic State is struggling to establish itself south of the coastal city of Misrata in the northern part of Libya. Local officials in Tripoli confirmed that they were fighting the Islamic State, which may have as many as 500 men hiding in the desert.
They are present in the Libyan desert, and this was confirmed that some ISIS elements were injured in a US airstrike. Dead bodies of ISIS fighters were also found.
The question is whether Libya is the new battleground for the Islamic State now that they are being driven out of Syria and Iraq. It is still a minor presence, but recent history has proven how unconventional warfare can be very effective and needs few fighters. The terror outfit has carried out several attacks. The most recent in Misrata involved a suicide attack in a court which killed 4 people and injured 40. Bureau Report, WION.
The Catalan president is facing growing pressure to drop plans to break from Spain ahead of a key address to the regional parliament. There's been speculation that he could announce a unilateral declaration of independence following a disputed referendum. WION's Mandy Clark has this ground report from the Catalan capital, Barcelona.
There seems to be a small sense of panic here in Barcelona. Growing numbers of big companies are threatening to pull out. France and Germany are voicing their support for a united Spain, and the European Union says Catalonia will have to reapply for membership if it declares independence. Many people are alarmed by the prospect of an economic collapse and are calling for a pause to slow down the rush for independence.
I think politicians are not making it so good. It's like they want Catalonia to break, people fight, and I think it's aware that people can say what they think, The 1 of October, there was police fighting with people and it was terrible.
It would be catastrophic for the economy. We would need a new currency. We would be outside the EU. It would be terrible.
With tensions mounting, the Catalan president could announce the creation of Europe's newest state, but he may yet try and find a way around a clean break from Spain. Analysts believe that Mr. Puigdemont could give lip service to the vote, but avoid making a full declaration of independence and therefore giving him room to negotiate with Madrid. A full declaration of independence could mean that he's at odds with the law and could lead to his arrest. Madrid has also threatened to impose direct rule, which may spark civil unrest. And with that turmoil and uncertainty, business would likely be driven out of the region. So all eyes will be on the Catalonian parliament to see what move the president will make next. Mandy Clark, WION, Barcelona.
Will they or won't they? As uncertainty continues over Catalonia declaring independence, we take a look at whether Catalonia can survive on its own.
As the world awaits Catalan President Carles Puigdemont's plans for independence, the big question is, can Catalonia stand on its own feet, or will an independent Catalonia weaken the rest of Spain? For all intents and purposes, Catalonia is a well-oiled machine, complete with its own parliament, flags, schools, healthcare and police force. But all of this is currently run by Madrid, so will Catalonia be able to pay for these institutions on their own? Catalonia is certainly rich when compared to other parts of Spain. It may be home to just 16% of Spain's population, but accounts for 19% of its GDP. It also contributes to more than a quarter of Spain's foreign exports. It punches above its weight when it comes to tourism too. Its capital, Barcelona, is one of Europe's most cosmopolitan cities, and Catalonia is the primary destination of tourists who visit Spain each year. But the picture is not that rosy. Catalonia's public debt is an issue of grave concern. The Catalan government owes 77 billion euros to the Spanish government. Independence will mean Catalonia losing access to the Spanish government's special fund, a scheme from which it has benefited 67 billion euros in the last 5 years. Catalonia may be one of Spain's wealthiest regions, but Madrid controls the economic levers. The economic uncertainty created by the prospect of independence has already led to 2 banks moving their head offices out of Catalonia, and others may follow suit. One thing is for certain, Spain is in uncharted territory and staring into an abyss. Bureau Report, WION.
And joining us this evening, Hel Kettner, who's a journalist with us from Barcelona, and Tim Parfee, who's an author. We also have with us Joel Whitaker, who's also a security analyst and independent journalist from Barcelona. Good evening to all of you. Hel, what have you picked up? Will he, won't he?
Excuse me?
Will President Puigdemont declare independence? What have you picked up?
Yeah, I'm not currently at the parliament, but I sure think so. That has been in the cards these last days.
I asked because he's under tremendous pressure, and some reports saying that he's also been issued veiled threats by the Spanish government.
Yeah, the spokesperson from the Partido Popular, the governing party in Spain, said yesterday that they wouldn't like it for him to happen the same that happened to Luis Companys 83 years ago, and he was arrested and then executed by Franco, and he actually did such a threat yesterday, which was very, very, very severe.
Tim Parfee, how do you see this playing out? Mr. Puigdemont is already in the regional parliament. We are expecting an announcement anytime soon. Is it?
Yes, he's about.
Is it likely
he's
that
about
he's
to
going to
start his? Well, I'm not sure. I'm not 100% sure. I think the expectation is that he might also not declare unilateral independence, but make a statement to clearly state that Catalonia has the right to do so from the result of the referendum. But perhaps he might still keep the door open for dialogue and mediation to have that vote ratified, if you like, by the Spanish central government. I think he has, as your other person just commented, he is under threat. The whole of Catalonia is under threat. You must have seen the reports of everyone trying to vote innocently on the 1st of October with the police repression. So it's a very tense situation, and I think he's going to obviously be choosing his words very carefully in the Parliament in a few minutes.
Joel, the same question to you. What's the buzz on the ground? Is the leader expected to declare independence? Because reports also say that the Spanish police have special forces ready to arrest him if he does so.
Yeah, I mean, actually, I'm just heading back from Barcelona back to the UK now, but I've just literally just left. And the feeling of the ground is one of trepidation as everybody waits to hear exactly what Puigdemont is going to say. Now, it's whether he actually declares a fully independent Catalonia or not remains to be seen. I don't think it's hugely likely, given the lack of support that him and his party are not receiving. They're not receiving support from the EU on this. France has come out and said they don't think as separatists Catalonia is a great idea. Britain is saying much the same thing. So therefore they're going to feel very isolated. But as actually your last two panelists have already mentioned, it's going to lead to dialogue. It's going to lead to, well, hopefully, dialogue between the Catalonian Parliament and Spain.
Hel, is there consensus in Catalonia? Because yes, 90% of the 2.3 million people who voted yes, but only 43% of the Catalan population voted.
Yeah, but we must bear in mind that Carles Puigdemont also has a pressure from those who voted yes. I mean, there's a big part of the population who voted yes and who has waited for this moment for their whole lives.
That's 90% of the 43%, so do the math. That's not majority.
Yeah, well, but we don't know who would actually have showed up if it had been more safe to vote, or or if they could actually hold a normal elections instead of what it became with the police threats. So it would have been nice to have been able to count it well in votes and not in injuries.
Tim, the Catalan law says the regional parliament can issue a formal declaration of independence within days of the referendum, 2 days of the referendum, but this is a law that Spain doesn't recognize. So essentially, which law is followed here, and what does the law say? That is the question.
Well, just going back first to the last comment from your panelist as well. You have to bear in mind when you mention the 43%. Don't forget that. The police were stopping people voting, and the original figure was that 63 or even up to 70% were going to come out to vote. So I think the desire is there to vote yes for independence. To answer your question, the law of the referendum was passed by the Catalan Parliament, and the transitional laws to move the Catalonia towards independence were also passed by the Catalan Parliament, but these laws have since been banned, if you like, by the National Court of Madrid. So even though the Catalonia believes that the referendum itself was legal and that the laws that exist now are legal for it to move towards independence legally, Madrid, the Spanish central government, is refusing to recognise those laws. It has even refused to recognise the referendum, obviously. So it's a very difficult situation legally.
Ketna, Spain got a lot of bad press internationally for the kind of violence we saw on the day of the referendum, and yet how likely is Madrid to arrest the Catalan leaders if they go ahead and declare independence?
Well, we saw how they arrested people on September the 20th without warning for preparing the referendum. So imagine what they could do if they actually declare the independence. So yeah, it's highly likely that they would arrest politicians.
Tim, how much of this is about politics? Because Catalonia has a fair degree of autonomy and independence within Spain. So why the call for a referendum now? Many have said that while the going was good, Catalonia did not bother leaving Spain, but with the economy on the downturn, they just want out.
No, I don't. I think this is something that needs to be clarified across a lot of media. Is that it's not that this independence movement isn't just a result of the economic downturn. This has been going on for years, if not centuries, and it's not just a political movement. It's an identity. It's a cultural. It's an economic process. There are many different factors, and so it certainly hasn't come to light just because of the economic downturn since 2008. In fact, this dates back. This recent phase dates back even 7 more years, back to when the word nation was taken out of the Catalonia Statute of Autonomy, and that was back in 2006, I think. It's definitely, the economic recession started in 2008. So this is definitely not just because of the economic recession, no.
Is the Catalan leadership united in the bid to push for independence? Are they all on the same board? On board, rather?
The government, yes, they are. I mean, there were some changes in the government actually just before they entered this final stage of the referendum preparations to ensure that everyone was on board. So yeah, it's a united leadership we have here in Catalonia, definitely.
And what does independence mean, Tim? How is it going to change the life of, say, a banker or a school teacher or a student in Barcelona?
Well, that's a very good question. I can't answer that just like that. I mean, I think more than anything, the economic impact for Catalonia will be quite immense. They want to, even despite the scaremongering from Madrid about everything going to be dire, they will be able to control their own finances and their tax, and they'll be able to invest in infrastructure across many different areas, including education and so forth. But just to interrupt you, I don't know if you've seen the news now breaking that the speech by Puigdemont has been delayed an hour. and the opposition MPs are leaving the chamber. I don't know if you're aware of that.
Okay, so that's news. The declaration has been delayed. Is there a chance held that the two leaders from Madrid and Barcelona will, after all, have a dialogue because they've both repeatedly and publicly rejected the idea?
Well, not both. Catalonia's president has always been in favor of dialogue, and he's been asking for it for years, actually. It depends on what he goes out to say today. If he keeps the door open, the Catalan president, or if he shuts it. Because right now, I think what the Spanish president needs is a straw to hold on to try to get into dialogue. But right now, Spain is refusing to dialogue with Catalonia. On the other hand, Catalonia has been willing to dialogue and has been asking for international mediation, actually, and these days even more. So it depends on what he goes out to say today, Puigdemont.
Tim, the same question to you, and Article 155, which has never been invoked in democratic Spain, people are already talking about it, and is that the last resort for Mr. Rajoy?
Yes, I think unless there's dialogue going to be happening tonight or first thing in the morning, on either declaration that is made this evening, Rajoy's last card will be Article 155, but I think that's going to be terrible. So they do need to sit down, they do need to have dialogue, they do need to mediate. There's currently, the Parliament's been delayed for an hour because there's a meeting being called by the Speakers Committee. So who knows what, nobody's giving a reason why, so we don't know whether that is because Puigdemont has been passed a message by somebody or what. We don't know, but his statement is going to be delayed for an hour as the meeting of the Speakers Committee.
Is the pressure on the Catalan leader purely political? Because economically, while Catalonia is one of the wealthiest regions of Spain, it also has a huge pile of debt, and questions are already being raised on how viable a country it will make.
Yeah, I mean, all these days it's been this campaign against Catalonia as well. Like the banks are fleeing and so on, but that's more of an image crack. I think that's what experts have been out saying these days. I think, yeah, I mean, Catalonia has a strong economy, and they have obviously they have debt to Spain, but this is going to be solved. I hope so, and it's all in the white book. They have all made a plan for how this independence process would go, and they have it all calculated. So yeah, of course, and Catalonia has a strong economy.
Tim, Madrid has powerful economic levers. Catalonia may have a strong economy, but also the neighbors are not on board. France and Germany, for one, have said that they're not going to support an independent Catalonia. Could this have been managed better by the leaders?
Oh, I think it could have been managed better by all leaders, ongoing, not just within Spain and Catalonia itself, but across the European Union. I think some of the rhetoric from the European Union is to protect their own interests with the issue of Scotland and with other states wanting to follow suit. I think the EU is going to have to reform itself on this issue over the long term. I think physically the border between Catalonia and France could not become a closed border. Catalonia, in my opinion, will never be rejected from the European Union. I don't think that's going to happen. I'm quite familiar with this as well, being British, and with the Brexit issue, and with the issues with Scotland and Northern Ireland and so forth. And I think Catalonia, their big issue here is with Spain, and I think they don't have a fear that they're going to be kicked out of Europe. I don't think that will happen. If they have to leave Europe, they would be able to return very quickly. It's too wealthy a nation and too geographically core and key to the European Union, in my opinion, anyway. So I think that's a red herring, the European issue. There's been a lot of backlash in Spain, in Catalonia, that there's been no condemnation from the EU leaders about the police repression on the voting day of the 1st of October. And I think that has soured things a bit. I think people have started to think, well, if the European Union aren't going to defend that type of activity by police against citizens just trying to vote, then do we need the EU? So I think that it works both ways, this argument. And I think the EU need to also be careful about the structure that they're currently operating.
Hell, a word on the security reinforcements at airports and rail stations in Catalonia, and in general, do you see a lot of police presence on the ground? Is there fear that violence might flare up again?
Before answering you that question, I just got a message from the news agency in Catalonia, and they say that the meeting is, well, the speech is delayed because of international contacts of mediation. So that's rather interesting. That's an interesting turn of things, I guess.
Who's offering to mediate?
I don't know. It doesn't say. It's a message from the Catalan news agency, who went out to say that it's because of international contacts for mediating.
But didn't Madrid reject offers for mediation earlier this week from Switzerland, if I'm not wrong?
They did, yeah, they did. But I don't know who those international contacts are. It's getting very interesting, this turn of things.
The way I see it, the Catalan leaders are just buying more time, it seems.
The Catalan leaders?
Sorry, carry on.
No, go ahead, Tim. Go ahead.
There's a report that Juncker's deputy chief spokeswoman was talking to Puigdemont, but at the same time it's been denied. So we're not sure why it's been delayed. The statement to Parliament. It might be because there is an attempt of international mediation, but nothing has been confirmed yet.
So the big news we're getting right now, Tim, is that the European Union might, after all, intervene.
Is that confirmed? Do you have that confirmed?
I'm asking you.
No, it's not confirmed. I'm certainly not confirming it. There is a report that was earlier, about 2 minutes ago, that Juncker's deputy chief spokeswoman was talking to Puigdemont, but this has subsequently been denied.
I see. Mandy Clark, WION's bureau chief from London, is also in Barcelona, and she's joining us live now. Mandy, what are you picking up? The declaration has been delayed by an hour. There are reports of possible mediation from outside. We'll try and reconnect with her, but so it has been delayed, but the suspense remains. So, Hel, I'll come back to the question that I asked you earlier. What about the security presence and the fears of violence?
Are you asking me?
Hel Kettner.
Sorry, I forgot.
I'm losing both of you.
Go ahead.
I didn't hear the question. I'm losing both of you. I don't hear anything. Sorry.
Right. Can you hear me now, Hel Kettner?
I can answer that.
Perfect now.
So the question is, do you see extra security police presence on the ground? Because there are reports that reinforcements have been sent both to the airports and rail stations in Catalonia. And is there a fear, while things may be calm on the surface, is there a fear that violence might flare up again if the leaders decide to go ahead and declare independence?
But there is I understand that there's a big security enforcement around the parliament, around the Catalan parliament, but Catalan police forces. On the train stations in Barcelona these days, there's been some national police from the Spanish national police, it was unclear why they were there. Well, we have to remember also that Spain has around 10,000 police agents around Catalonia. One of the cruise ships they're living in here in Tarragona, and 2 in Barcelona. So yeah, there's an increase of police forces everywhere in Catalonia. They even brought in military logistics to a military kind of logistics center next to Barcelona a couple of days ago as well, to house all these police agents. So yeah, there's a great deal of police presence these days in Catalonia. Yeah, I sure hope it won't lead to violence. But yeah, let's see. We saw what happened last Sunday, which was very worrying.
I'm going to thank you both, Hel Kettner and Tim Parfit, for joining us, and we're waiting for the leaders to declare whatever they are going to declare. The suspense continues, and those were pictures from the regional parliament. Remember, 16% of Spain's population lives in Catalonia. It is one of the wealthiest regions in the country, and the leaders' address has been delayed by at least an hour after reportedly offers of mediation from outside. So this remains a developing story for us here on WION. In the meantime, let's take a look at some other news. Have you ever taken out a risky loan or gambled at a casino even while you were losing? The new Nobel Prize winner for economics can tell you why you make those kinds of financial decisions. University of Chicago professor Richard Taylor has been awarded the Nobel Prize for economics. WION's Andy Roskin takes a look at the celebration for him in Chicago.
Out of this, they were popping the bubbly Monday morning at the University of Chicago's Booth School of Business.
Richard Taylor.
And it was a long ovation for the newest Nobel Prize winner of economics, Richard Thaler, who gave a brief and dry-witted thank you to the school after getting that very early morning wake-up call from the Nobel Prize committee.
They say, whatever you do, don't tell anybody for the next hour. Like, there's a lot of people that are awake waiting for your call.
Traditional economists have believed that people would always act in their own best economic interests, and that with large enough groups of people involved and with large enough at stake, any errors and deviations would cancel one another out. But Thaler has spent years looking more at the mind than the money.
I've used the strategy of corrupting the youth, and whose minds are not already made up.
Thaler has long argued that we do not act rationally with our money, that we use our gut feelings to keep on gambling at a casino even when we've already won big money, or when we keep losing big money. Thaler calls that the hot hand fallacy. Or how Americans were certainly not rational in the days leading up to the American financial crisis of 9 years ago.
People took out mortgages that they wouldn't be able to pay back. People loaned them money, knowing they wouldn't be able to pay it back.
Thaler's Nobel win provides a huge boost for the University of Chicago's Booth School of Business.
It was not a shock. I think it was clear that he should get the Nobel Prize, and it was a matter of time as to when he would get it. We just didn't know it would be this year.
University officials say they had no idea this announcement was coming, but they were up at 4 o'clock in the morning to watch on TV, just in case. Governments around the world are starting to apply Thaler's work when it comes to tax collections and retirement accounts. And for students here who are just starting out their adult financial lives, Thaler's work is invaluable.
I certainly have that voice in the back of my mind that your perception of the odds and your perception of risk is flawed.
Understanding how humans behave, not just in gambling, but in their everyday lives, is very important for rational decision making.
And the answer for dealing with an irrational mind? Thaler says more companies need to automatically set aside their workers' pay for retirement, and that we all need to save more in general and curb our risky financial behavior.
Everything looks risky to me. The whole world looks risky to me. And I think the biggest puzzle is why the volatility is so low. I'm baffled by that.
Thaler's Nobel Prize win includes an award of over $1 million. Thaler jokes that he plans on spending that money as irrationally as possible.
Anytime I spend any money that's really fun, I'm going to say that came from the Nobel Prize.
Andy Rosgen in Chicago for WION.